Quarter-Life Crisis by Taylor Tomlinson. So, I'm an introvert. Is anyone else here an introvert? I am. Recently, I read a statistic that said about 80% of homicide cases, the killer is actually someone the victim knew. And when I read this, I was like, thank God, I don't want to be murdered and meet somebody. That's like a lot for a Friday. Getting stabbed and acquainted, just dump me in the river. Don't introduce yourself, Jeff. So I'm halfway through my 20s and I am done with this shit. Oh my God, I'm so sick of my 20s. I'm so sick of people telling me to enjoy them. They are not fun. They are 10 years of asking yourself, will I outgrow this? Or is this going to be a problem? Like, is it a phase? Or is it a demon? I just need to know, like, am I just really fun? Woo! Yeah! Or should I go to a meeting? Someone help me. And if you're sitting there going, you should be grateful. I miss my 20s. No, you don't. What you miss is being thin. And you're thin in your 20s because you don't have a gut to listen to make good decisions. You don't have that thing on your ribs going, hi. Maybe don't date that DJ. Again! So I just did my ex for cheating on me. He didn't really cheat on me, but he used to do this thing where he would tell me anytime another girl hit on him, like, babe, I just want to let you know that this girl's Starbucks was trying to get my number. So, cool. What do you want me to say to that? Oh, do you want me to fist bump you? Yeah! Woo! Or do you want me to turn into Batman and be all like, where is she? And he's like, I'm just trying to be honest with you. No, you're not. You want me to know that you turned down the option of other people today. Do you want points for not cheating on me? Do you want me to be like, oh my God, babe. I'm so lucky. This is like a fairy tale. I mean, before this, I didn't really understand Taylor Swift songs. And now I do. La, 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 la. I learned a lot being single. When you're single, go to as many weddings as possible, because that way you can be like, wow, okay. Not this. I swear, at a wedding we watched, the bride walked down the aisle for it felt like 45 minutes to an hour. Oh my God. These 20-somethings are milking that walk. She was all like,
swear, at my wedding, I'm gonna jog a little down the aisle. Like we're at a crosswalk and I start seeing the numbers going down and I'm gonna have you out of here in 9 seconds, people! So she gets about halfway down the aisle and I look over at the groom, and at this point there should be some tears because he's so lucky and she's so beautiful and they made a mistake. Whatever. So I look over at the groom, not expecting a blubbery mess of a man, just like produce aisle mist. And he was dry as a bone. Nothing, just another Tuesday. It's cheaper to get married on Tuesday. And I thought, wow, if that happens to me at my wedding, I'm gonna stop the whole thing. Stop the music! Stop the music. Oh my god, I just miss him. Yeah, this is so fun. You are going to get your shit together. I showed up. I got a spray tan. So we're gonna look at me. I'm your future. Oh, don't start crying now. It's too late and too early. So we're gonna go back out there and we're gonna get it right. Yeah. Yeah. Because if we don't, I am going to make your life a living hell. I could make you cookies every day. Or I could make you miserable forever. I don't really give a shit either way. I just need a project. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Up next in the oratory category, we have Dana Levy with He for She.
Emma Watson for the He for She campaign, United Nations headquarters. I am reaching out to you because I need your help. We need to end gender inequality, and to do so, we need everyone to be involved. This is the first campaign of its own kind in the UN. We want to try and galvanize as many men and boys as possible to be advocates for gender equality. We don't want to just talk about it, but make sure it is tangible. The more I have spoken about feminism, the more I have realized that speaking up for women's rights have often become synonymous with man-hating. If there's anything I know for certain, is that this must stop. For the record, feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. It is the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. I started questioning gender-based assumptions when I was 8. I was confused about being called bossy when I wanted to direct the plays for parents and the boys were not. When I was 14, I started being sexualized by certain elements of the press. When I was 15, my girlfriends started dropping off their sports teams because they didn't want to appear too muscly. When I was 18, my male friends were unable to express their feelings. I decided I was a feminist, and this seemed uncomplicated for me. But my recent research has shown me that feminism has become an unpopular word. Apparently, I'm among the ranks of women whose words are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, anti-men, and unattractive. But why is this word such an uncomfortable one? I can say that there is no country in the world where women have received these rights. There is no country in the world that has achieved gender equality. These rights, I consider to be human rights, but I am one of the lucky ones. My life is a sheer privilege because my parents didn't love me less because I was born a daughter. My school did not limit me because I was a girl. My mentors didn't assume I would go less far because I might give birth to a child someday. These influencers were the gender equality ambassadors that made me who I am today. They may not know it, but they're the inadequate feminists who are changing the world today. And we need more of those. And if you still hate the word, it's not the word that's important, but the idea and the ambition behind it. because not all women have been afforded the same rights that I have. In fact, statistically, very few have been. In 1995, Hillary Clinton made a famous speech in Beijing talking about women's rights. Sadly, most of the things that she wanted to change are still a reality today. But what stood out for me the most was that only 30% of her audience were male. How can we affect a change in the world where only half of it is invited or welcome to be part of the conversation? Men, I would like to take this opportunity to extend your formal invitation. Gender equality is your issue too. I've seen young men struggling with mental illnesses, unable to ask for help, thinking it will make them look less macho. Men don't have the benefits of equality either. We don't often talk about men being imprisoned by gender stereotypes, but I know that they are, and that when they are free, things will change for women as a natural consequence. If men don't have to be aggressive in order to be accepted, women don't have to be compelled to be submissive. If men don't have to control, women don't have to be controlled. Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we perceive gender on a spectrum and not as two opposing ideals. I want men to take up this mantle so their daughters, their sisters, their mothers can be free from prejudice, but so their sons have permission to be vulnerable and human too. Reclaim those parts of themselves they have abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete versions of themselves. In my nervousness for this speech, and in my moments of doubt, I told myself firmly, if not me, who? If not now, when? If you still have similar doubts when opportunities are presented to you, I hope these words might be helpful. If you believe in gender equality, you might be one of those enamoring feminists I spoke of earlier. And for this, I applaud you. We are struggling for a uniting world, but the good news is that we have a uniting movement. It is called He for She. I am inviting you to step forward, to speak up, to be the he for she, and to always remind yourselves, if not me, who? If not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Up next, we have Maite Morales, who not only will be performing her speech, her monologue, but she wrote it herself in the original category.
The perfect recipe. Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down. The medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down. I can't believe I spent all my life learning how to be a housewife and was never able to perfect a homemade sausage. I always felt something was missing. All that time I spent being a devoted wife, I realize now that I have many talents outside of cooking, many useful talents. And if I do choose to open a gourmet store one day, I must learn how to be creative with my cooking. I know this time my homemade pork sausage will be perfect, starting with the frozen fat.
Hello, honey. How was your day?
I'm glad. Did you have a chance to visit your brothers in the hospital? How terrible. That incident was just so malicious in nature. I hope they're released from the hospital soon. Me? I've been tidying up, keeping myself busy. That smell? Probably just the frozen fat and meat defrosting. Why don't you sit down and I'll cook up something real nice? Sausage, maybe? Honey, I know you hate my sausage, but I promise, I finally figured out the perfect ingredient. I even made you this special cocktail. Honey, what kept you up so late last night? Were you tutoring Brittany again? Or did you just stay up late fucking her again? Don't look so surprised. I've known for a long time now. Don't worry, I get it. Money can slip from time to time. I understand. But I promise you that from now on, you won't have to go looking for another woman. Because the fun is about to begin.
Nothing's wrong.
I just thought it was time for a little bit of a different type of entertainment. Something new. Why don't you sit down and actually listen to me for once? You know, it was extremely hard at first. Pretending I didn't know you. Pretending I didn't know what a terrible human being you are. But you know what the hardest part was? Not taking a fucking knife and just emptying it while you sleep. We're just sit the fuck down. Believe it or not, I am not a small-town girl from Iowa. I actually grew up in Florida. Go Gators! Remember your college years? Oh, please, don't play stupid. Think back to October 4th, 1999. Rush week! Me and my friends decided to go to our first frat party. And me, being a hopeless romantic, I thought I would meet Mr. Right. I was told that it was safe talking to the guys at the fraternity because they are good guys. His name was Lucas. I thought he was perfect. He even offered me a cocktail. But then, things started to get blurry, and two big, tall twins asked Lucas to leave. They told him I was the one for them. Then I saw you. You were standing at that door. If you would have done something, things would have been different. Instead, I met your brothers that night. They told me I would have an unforgettable night. Things were becoming more and more blurry. Yet I still vividly remember that horrible, horrible smell. The terrible smell of that horrible cologne. Everything started whispering in my ear and touching between my legs. I was saying, no, please, don't! But I couldn't do anything. I was helpless. And you just stood there. Do you know what it feels like? Just be taken apart as if you were nothing. Do you know how it feels like? To be broken down a million times and still relive that moment every day. Do you know what it feels like? To see a man you thought was kind witness what happened and be too afraid of his brother to do anything about it. You don't know shit. Because everything has been handed to you, and when my life was in your hands, you did nothing. I was nothing. That night, as I tried to get rid of that smell, I removed the blood from my legs. The images and screams kept on replaying and replaying. And I felt pure emptiness for days. When I spoke up, nobody believed me. The school said there was nothing they could do, that your brothers were part of a powerful family, and that your dad made monthly donations. You would be surprised at what people are willing to do for money. After days and days of self-pity, I realized that the only answer for justice was revenge. Oh, you're crying? Please, you are just like your father. Oh, right, small detail. That horrible, horrible smell? That's your father's rotting corpse. And now what you're feeling is your body slowly paralyzing. Vomiting? Really? I just cleaned the rug. Why did I kill your father? He knew everything anything and never did a thing about it. He was just like your brothers. He covered everything up. He was the plague of your family. I know. How could I, a delicate, beautiful, innocent, female specimen, do something as horrible as murder? Well, nothing can be worse than what he went through. I've already lived through hell. I have nothing to lose. The fat for my pork sausages, think big shoulders, perfect for my homemade recipe. They took something of mine, so I decided to take something of theirs. So yes, it's my fault they're in the hospital. Honey, you always liked my cooking. Well, everything except for my sausages. But I promise, I finally figured out the perfect ingredients. It was in front of me all along. Your love, honey. The undying, reciprocated love. I'm a hopeless romantic after all. Now, any last words? Honey? Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down. The medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. In a most delightful way.
She wrote that. Up next, in the drama category, with the piece Multiple Personality Murder,
Yes.
Alisa Rios.
Multiple Personality Murder by Deborah Karzowski. Get your paws off of me, I'm going. Jeez, you think we was in a rush. Take it easy, will ya? I got all the time in the world. Hey, Mr. Doc, would you tell Miss Officer here to quit shoving? Give me a break. Don't you got any respect? Yo, Doc, you see that? She pushed me. No way, she smacked me. That's assault. I could press charges. I got a witness here. Right, Doc? So, how you doing, Doc? How ya doing? Me? Great. Super. I'm just having the time of my life. Hey, they gave me a new roomie yesterday. Some sniveling, nose-blowing wimp who cried all night. Can you believe it? I told her that if she didn't quit whining, I'd put her face through the wall. What? No, I was as sweet as could be. I said, how you doing? Pleased to meet ya. You can call me Pat, and if you don't quit that wailing, I'm gonna put your stinking snot face through the stinking wall. It's just that, hey, you know what it's like to lose your beauty sleep? Well, it worked, didn't it? She was as quiet as could be after that. It's just that, that's how it works with people. They push, and they push, and they push, and they won't back off until you put some fear into them, you know? They think they can treat you like a toy, like an animal, like a stinking ashtray, you know? Where, Alicia's scared. Oh, hi, Mr. Doctor. Alicia feels better now. I waked up and where's my dolly? And why can't I move my hands, huh? These handcuffs, they're for the bad cowboys, but I'm not the bad cowboy, really, bang, bang. I'm the good girl. I'm not the bad cowboy. Mr. Doctor, will you tell Miss Sheriff Lady here to take them off?
Thank you. I free. Thank you, Miss Sheriff Lady. You're nicer than you look. Ugly, but nice. Leisha's hungry. I know. Felicia. Don't say Leisha, say Felicia. Big girls don't talk baby talk. That's what mommy says. Felicia, be a big girl. Mr. Daddy doesn't like when you act like a baby. Mr. Daddy gets so mean when he's mad. He hurts Leisha. Wanna see? See? Boo-boo. See? Another boo-boo. Why Mr. Daddy put his cigarette on Leisha when Leisha not an ashtray? Leisha, bang, Leisha. Doctor. A girl takes a little nap and you begin to remove her clothing. Shame on you. Like the nail polish? It's called Hot House Rose. You like? That's enough. For now. We haven't formally met, have we? You can call me Kaylee. What can I call you? Oh, excuse me, Doctor. Pardon me, Doctor. Wouldn't want to rock the boat now, would we? That's a first. A guy who's not interested. What is it? Prefer boys? Or are you married? This your girlfriend? As if that would make a difference. My ma had a whole wagon train full of boyfriends and that didn't stop any of that. What? Mr. Daddy? How'd you hear about him? Can you believe that? Us kids, we had to call him Mr. Daddy. Didn't matter that I never even met my own daddy. Didn't matter that him and my mom were only shacking up. I had to call him Mr. Daddy. And he didn't act like a daddy, that's for sure. You know, he'd start to drink and he'd get all friendly. Too friendly, and I'd start to scream, and I'd start to kick, and I'd start to bite. But if I didn't make him happy, he'd take out the cigarettes, and he'd take a bug puff until the tip of the cigarette was bright red. And I'd see it coming closer, and closer, and ah! What right does he have to hurt someone like that? People aren't toys. People aren't animals. People aren't stinking ashtrays, you know? People think they can hurt just about anybody they want. I ran into Ma's bedroom. I locked the door. I knew it was there somewhere. I started dumping everything out of the drawers. Hurry, Pat, he's pounding. Hurry. Where is it? Ah, they're gone. Some people won't back off until you put some fear into them, you know? Where is? Hurry, Pat, he's pounding. Harder. Bang, bang. Bang, bang. Leisha's the good girl, really. Leisha's not the bad cowboy. Leisha's the good girl. Thank you.
Okay, everybody take a deep breath in. Up next, in the oratory category, we have Alejandro Madero with the speech, Moon Speech. Woo!
Address at Rice University on the nation's space effort by John F. Kennedy. I am delighted to be here. I am particularly delighted to be here on this occasion, for we meet at a college noted for knowledge, in a city noted for progress, in a state noted for strength. And we stand in need of all three. For we meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. Despite the striking fact that most of the scientists the world has ever known are alive and working today, despite the fact that this nation's own scientific manpower is doubling every 12 years at a rate greater than 3 times that of our own population, despite all that, the vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension. Now, if America's new spacecraft manages to reach Venus, we will have literally reached the stars before midnight tonight. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old, new ignorance, new dangers, new problems. Surely the opening vistas of space offer high cost and hardships, as well as high reward. This country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them. This country was conquered by those who moved forward, and so will space. Those who came before us made certain that this generation rode the first waves of the Industrial Revolutions, and the first waves of modern invention, and the first waves of nuclear power. And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. For the eyes of the world now look into space, into the moon and into the planets beyond. And we have vowed that we shall not see it governed by a hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom and peace. We have vowed that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and understanding. And yet, the vows of this nation can only be fulfilled if we in this nation are first, and therefore we intend to be first. In short, our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make these efforts, to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men. For space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. Whether it will become a force of good or ill depends only on man, and only if the United States occupies a position of preeminence can we help decide whether this new ocean will become a sea of peace or a terrifying new theater of war. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are dangerous to us all, and its opportunity for peaceful cooperation may never come again. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may very well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone, and one that we intend to win. The growth of our science and industry will be enriched by our new knowledge of our universe and environment, by new techniques for learning and observation, by new tools and computers for industry, medicine, the home, as well as the school. But if I were to say, my fellow citizens, that we shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away from a control station in Houston, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, the length of this football field, made of new metal alloys, some of which have not yet been invented, capable of standing heat and stresses several times greater than have ever been experienced, fitted together with precision better than the finest watch, carrying all the equipment needed for propulsion, guidance, control, communications, food, and survival, on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and then return it safely to Earth. Then we must be bold. Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why he wanted to climb it. And he said, because it is there. Well, space is there, and we're going to climb it. And the moon and the planets are there. And new hopes for peace and knowledge are there. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the greatest and most hazardous and most dangerous adventure on which man has ever embarked. Thank you.
Okay, up next in the humorous category, in the oratory category, we have a very special member because we had a team at the beginning and then we had some situations and somebody had to, leave the team, and right there, like at the very end, Tatiana decided to take on this task, and she will be performing in the oratory category, Incoming Call Literature. Tatiana.
Incoming Call Literature by Nankasiari. Last night, I was reading a very famous children's tale to little Nina, Hansel and Gretel by the Grimm brothers. There is a dramatic moment in the story when the siblings find out that some birds have eaten the breadcrumbs they had strategically scattered in a foolproof plan to trace away back home. Hansel and Gretel realize they are all alone and lost in the woods, and it's getting dark. Right at this turning point in the story, my daughter says to me, "That's okay. They can call up their daddy on one of their cells." And then, for the first time, it hit me. My daughter has no notion of life without cell phones. That was also the moment I realized how awful literature would be, generally speaking, if cell phones had always existed just like my 4-year-old daughter believes. How many classics would have been left without their climax? How many plots would have never come to be? And most importantly, how easily the greatest literary conflicts would have been resolved. I would like you to think now of a classic story. Any story that comes to your head. It could be anything from the Odyssey to the Adventures of Pinocchio, from The Old Man and the Sea, Macbeth, or Hopscotch, to 100 Years of Solitude. It doesn't really matter if it's a meaningful or popular story. And the setting is irrelevant as well. I'd just like you to think of a classic story you know by heart. One with an introduction, a conflict, and a resolution. Do you have it yet? Good. Now place a cell phone inside the main character's pocket. Not an ancient black device mounted on a wall, but a modern-day phone. A phone with coverage and email access. A phone that enables you to chat, send text messages, and make phone calls even to the most remote corners of the world. Can you see what happens to a story you've chosen? Now that your characters can call each other, regardless of how far apart they are, now that they can chat, video call, and send text messages, does the plot still work? Not even a little. Last night, without realizing, little Nina opened my eyes to a dreadful scenario. Cell phones will completely destroy all future stories, leaving behind cheap technological anecdotes. For example, if she had had a cell phone with her, Penelope wouldn't have had to wait impatiently for Odysseus to return from war. With a cell in her basket, Little Red Riding Hood would be able to warn Granny about the wolf in time, and the woodcutter's help would be unnecessary. Cinderella would give her phone number to the prince from the beginning, and he wouldn't have to go all over the place trying to find who the owner of the glass slipper is. Tom Sawyer wouldn't get lost on the Mississippi River, thanks to Verizon's remarkable GPS service. The three little pigs could Google a way to trap the wolf before their houses are blown down, and Geppetto would get a notification from school saying that Pinocchio didn't show up that morning. Throughout the past 20 centuries, the main conflicts in most stories, whether written, sung, or acted out, have revolved around the characters' misunderstandings and their inability to meet up or keep in touch. In other words, the reason why these stories exist is that cell phones didn't. No love story, for instance, would have been tragic or complicated at all if lovers had been able to stay in touch through the phone. The iconic dramatic climax of the world's most famous love story, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, is solely based on a ridiculous lack of communication. Juliet fakes her own death, Romeo believes she really died and kills himself, so once Juliet awakens and realizes what has happened, she commits real suicide. If she had had a cell phone with her in Act 4, Juliet would have texted Romeo something like, "I'm playing dead, but I'm not rolling. Don't worry about me, or do anything stupid. XOXO," and all the subsequent drama could have been avoided. The last part of the book would have been a waste of paper. It would have never been written if in 15th century Verona, AT&T had launched a special 3G data plan. Many important works would have also had to change their names to more suitable ones. For example, technology would completely destroy the solitude in Aracataca, and so the novel by Garcia Marquez would be called 100 Years Offline. It will narrate the adventures of a family where they all have the same username, but Messenger doesn't work for any of them. Within 2 acts, Becca would have had to change the name of his famous tragic comedy to a title more consistent with the technical advances, such as Godot's phone is off or he's out of service range. We would also get fed up and bored with these stories with instant solutions. We would lose all mystery, secrets, and bad timing in literature. Those big obstacles that always create the overall plot to the era of cell phones and Wi-Fi. Cell phones, little Nina unintentionally warned me last night, will hinder the stories we write from now on, making them sadder, less calm, and much more predictable. And yet I wonder, isn't the same thing happening in real life? Aren't we depriving ourselves of idyllic adventures because of this 24/7 connection? Will any of us ever run desperately to the airport to tell the person we love not to get on the plane? To live in the here and now? No. We'll send them a short, pitiful text message from the couch. Why make the effort to live on the edge of adventure if something is always going to ruin that suspense? A call, a text, an alarm? Our world is already infected with clues and solutions. Beware, the Duke is on his way to kill you. Be careful, the apple is poisoned. Kiss her and the girl will wake up and fall in love with you. Dad, come find us. Some birds ate the breadcrumbs. Our plots are losing their brilliance. The written, the lived, even the imagined. All because we have become lazy heroes.
Correct.
we have again Miss Maite Morales. This time performing It's Terrible Being Nice in the humorous category.
It's Terrible Being Nice from the play Goodbye Charles by Gabriel Davis.
Don't do it. Don't open that little box one more crack. Don't ask me to marry you. Shh. Don't say another word. Just listen. You can't do this to me. I mean, before I met you, I used to be such a bitch. I mean, seriously, everyone at work used to think I was a huge bitch. No one actually liked me. Those people I introduced you as my friends, they're not my friends. They're scared of me. Or they were. Before I met you. Before you, I never said please or thank you at restaurants. I never smiled or laughed at anyone's jokes but mine. I never used to tip more than 10%. I was quick with insults. I always had a cool word. I was cold, cross, false, and compassionate. But since being with you, I'd begun to feel all warm inside, fuzzy. I find myself wanting to stroll in the park and whistle. I have these thoughts, these urges to donate to charities and help out in soup kitchens and hug people. Since being with you, I've given nearly $10 to homeless men, helped 3 old ladies cross the street, and I bought one of my so-called friends a present at full price. And it was something I knew she'd like. Don't you see? Don't you see you've made me nice? And what really scares me is that you open up that box and ask me to marry you, and I'll nicely say yes. And then I'll be nice for life. I'll be singing Kumbaya for the rest of my days. I'll give back to the community, to the Salvation Army, to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and I'll do it anonymously. And then one day, years from now, I'll wake up and I'll have the horrible realization that I lived a good life, one that I contributed. So please, for the love of God, put that box away. I mean, the planet already has millions of nice people. It doesn't need me too. I'm a bitch, and I want to stay that way. So please, I'm asking you, no, I'm begging you. I'm getting down on my knees. Will you please not marry me? Thank you.
Up next, a little change in the program. We are going to present another original. This time this piece is written and performed by Valeria Lagache. And the name of the piece is The Mirror.
What category is it?
Original. Written and performed.
The Mirror. What is that? In my reflection?
That's strange. That's not my room. It looks like a different world. That's not my world. Wait! That's not me! Someone else is in that reflection, but how can it be? It's just me here. I must be going crazy. Let me just close my eyes and open. Oh my, it's true! What I see in the mirror is not what I see in my room. But how can it be? No. Okay, let me just try and... What? Where did the other person go? That other person? The one in the reflection? She was my only proof that I'm not crazy. Is she gone? Where would she go? I know I saw her. I know I'm not crazy. I know this world isn't real. This mirror has to be some kind of bridge or some kind of portal between a world and reality. Why else am I seeing things in it that are not around me? But then again, I wonder, is this true reality? How am I to know that this world is a fake one and not the other one on the other side of the mirror? Yet, if this is a real one, why are they so afraid I say otherwise? Why do I have to be locked up like I'm some kind of psychopath? Why do I have to be locked up in this game? This is probably act from the government. Yes! They're the ones behind everything. They don't want me to expose them. They don't want me to tell the world they're living in a world of lies and fantasy. In a world controlled by the government who doesn't want us to educate ourselves, to thrive. They don't want us to have critical thinking because if that happens, there will be a revolution! A marvelous revolution! Maybe it's some kind of game or a TV show. Maybe we're just entertainment for another world. Or we live in cages, being experimented on by aliens, and that's why we get deja vu. And that's why we get deja vu, because the aliens erase part of our memories. Are the aliens part of a government plan? Maybe the people in the government are aliens. Think about every time you see strange things around you. Stuff that you can't really explain. What happened? Stuff that you told yourself it wasn't real, and you told yourself it wasn't real and ignored it. Once, I saw a bird, and he was flying, and he passed through a tree. But I never saw it come out the other end. And you saw the time, I took a plane. It was January 4th, it was 1 p.m. and landed at 10 a.m. on that same day. It was only a 45-minute flight. People told me it was because of time zones. But do you really think I'm going to believe that? Have you ever seen two completely identical people? People say they're twins or some biological bullshit, but really, I think it's a glitch in this fake school's programming. Society has us hypnotized, brainwashed into believing everything they say is true. Social media controls our minds, our thoughts. But how am I supposed to believe fake people that are probably just numbers programmed into a computer? You know? I wonder how the real world is. How are humans there? Is the sky still blue? Or is it bright pink and maybe yellow? Are there 4 seasons? Do birds swim and dolphins fly? Maybe I should ask that other person inside the mirror. I don't know if she can hear me or see me, but it's worth a shot. Hey, Please don't look at me like that. I know it sounds stupid, but I really saw it. You're just a part of it all. A piece in the game of life, and that's why you hold me here. That's why you don't believe me. But I know it's true. I know I'm right. What do I have to do for you to help me? Okay, I'll explain. I was looking around my room, and I noticed this mirror. That wasn't there before. I even saw this weird-looking girl instead of me. Just look at it yourself, maybe you'll see it too. Okay, hey, I'll come down. But please don't tell them to bring more pills. I don't need them. Hey, I'm completely sane. No, get away from me. What are you doing? No, stop it. Get away. No. What is that? No, don't put that into me. No, just look in the mirror. No. Ah! No. What was that? Just look in the mirror. Just look in the mirror. Wait. The sky really is pink.
She wrote that too. Up next in the drama category, we have our performer Kike Rivera Gomez. The piece The Budget.
Do you need more papers? I can go get some really quick. Okay. Oh, we're good. Okay. Look, I have one here. I don't know. I really can get more.
The button. I marked back. One. You gotta take me out of here. You see, I'm going nuts. I can't stand it. Here's what we'll do. Just get me a pencil, a little light, and a paper, and I'll write a confession for you. You see? One, now you listen. Okay. I'll be calm and quiet so you can see that I mean what I'm saying. I'll confess. I, Joe Ransom, killed my cellmate, Mike Millard. And here's why. It was his eyes. He used to sit down staring at me. Staring at me for 5 years. 5 years, that's those. So that day, when all hell broke loose and everybody's running up and down the hall, I put my 2 arms on his neck and I squeezed till I knew he couldn't breathe. There. You go. I confessed. Now, take me out of here. Take me out of this place. It's so dark and I start seeing things. I start seeing my size. One. Are you listening? Are you listening? What was it? I had a match. Here. Oh. It's a spider. It's a spider weaving a web to catch flies. There are no flies in here, spider. It's just you and me. You and me. Why don't you try to catch me? Oh. I'll sit down and I'll watch you. Back and forth, the spider and I. Back and forth. Stop it! Stop, Joe Ransom! You go nuts that way! Crazy! What was it? I heard some drop. It's a button. It's a little itty bitty button. Little button, why button, what do I want you for? What good can you do to me? Y'all throw it away like I threw my life away! I threw it away. I need to find it. It meant something. Here. It does mean something. It's maybe a game. A game that keeps me from thinking of seeing Mike and his eyes again. I need to keep playing it. So I need to close my eyes and throw. Where is it? Here it is. I'm safe. Play it again. Put your arm back and throw. Here it is. And again, put your arm and throw. I threw, but I didn't hear it hit. I threw, and I didn't hear it hit. I threw, and I didn't hit. Someone must have grabbed it. Oh, Mike, no. It can't be Mike. Or I could see his eyes. Maybe it wasn't. And I lost the button. And all I can hear is my heart beating, and pounding my ears again. Mike, stay there. Mike, don't get near me. Mike, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
All right, we have again Miss Dana Levy. This time she has written, this is an original piece, so she will be performing Final Dance.
Final dance. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I am Rachel Cohen. I'm 15 years old. I know, I may look younger than that. Today's February something, I think. I lost count of the days, but I'm sure it is 1945. I am a dancer. A great one. All my professors would say so. But today will be my last dance. I knew this day would come, but I had hope. You know what they say, to never give up hope. But 3 days ago, all hope was lost. And I will show you why. Everybody up, it is morning time. I know it seems dark and gloomy, but somewhere out there the sun is out. Let us see who is here today. Hi Hannah, how are you feeling? Don't worry, sweetheart, tomorrow all the pain will be gone. Leah, Sarah, Rebecca, Golden, and great. Let's start with today's lesson. We're gonna do plié, relevé, tendu, plié. Good. Now when we connect yesterday's lesson with today's lesson, it's supposed to look like this. Good. Now all together. Much better, Hannah. Very good, Anne. Excellent, Rebecca. You are all prima ballerinas. What, Hannah? You're tired? Don't worry, sweetheart. It's time for a break anyway. All right, girls, that was a great class. I know y'all feel weak, but tomorrow will be better. Yes, Sarah? You're hungry? Let's just wait and see when the food will arrive. But for now, let's sleep. Good night, girls. Anne, you don't look too good. How are you feeling? Just lay your head next to my lap. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam. Ahol ve'ayam, rishru shel hamayim, ברק השמיים תפילת עליו. The days are so dark. The nights are so cold. This snow is getting darker and darker every day. The smell has become unbearable. Then I heard this noise. It was Hannah screaming, "No! Where are you taking her? You can't take her! No!" Girls, Hannah was just sick. So they're just taking her to the nurse. That's all. Are you guys excited? Tomorrow's gonna be your final performance. Girls, I think the food is finally here. I know you guys are all very hungry. What? No! Where are you taking them? You can't take them! What do you think we're taking them to our final performance? No, you can't take them! Where did my dance class go? Why can't I just realize the truth? We are cold. We are hungry. We're away from our families. What world are we living in? Anne, it's only you and I, my dear, dear Anne. Would you like me to perform for you the final dance? My little Miss Frank. You think this is right? You all separated us from our families, made us starve and suffer from all the slave work, and most importantly, you killed millions of us! Don't you care? I can't believe people can be so cruel, horrendous, and murderous! You may take away my life, but you will never erase us from history.
Project a piece because one of our members is not here today. It's a drama category. The piece is called My Mother's Touch, and our performer is Cecilia Colbert. So,
My Mother's Touch by Lauren D. You've come here to stare at me, to gape and point and go home with the smug comfort that you'll never end up like me. Just as long as there's glass between us. You wouldn't be saying those things if we were sitting in a room together, just the two of us, palm to palm, with no glass and no idea what the creature might do next. Rather frightening idea. You might be scared, fluttery. I just got close enough to touch you. That's all I ever wanted. For her to take my hand and hold it. But did I get it? No! I was born on the 13th. I've been told that my mother cried for days after I was born. You see, they couldn't get me out the natural way, the normal way. So they had to take their pretty knives and cut open her smooth white belly, slashing it down the middle. For years, my mother would cry whenever I asked her how I was born. She told me that she would have known that they were going to cut her open. She wouldn't have had a child in the first place. Because you see, my mother was a pretty thing when she was younger. The type that construction workers would lick their lips at, as if they could just taste the pretty honey dripping from her small white fingers. Never had that problem, you see. My mother kept all the pretty genes to herself, hoarding them so when people saw us side by side, they would wonder what accident had caused such a beautiful woman to give birth to such an unsightly creature. Only had to take one look at her tiny, pale fingers. Know that mine would never be like that. Keep your hands to yourself, was what she told me when I was 5. I had been finger painting and I reached up to her for a hug, for warmth. But as soon as my yellow and red painted fingers touched her blouse, she screamed and pushed me away. After that, my mother never touched me again. I was dirty. I would stain her blouse, soil her skin. Sometimes I would annoy her just as she would reach back her hand and slap me with a smooth flat of her palm. I still remember the feeling of her cool skin against my cheek, stinging a little. But mostly my mom kept her hands to herself. She would shudder whenever she had to take my dry, spidery fingers into hers. This continued on for years until there was a fire. It started innocently in the kitchen while she was cooking. Fires can be tricky things, and soon the entire room was up in smoke and my mother was racing out of the house, clutching her apron for fear that the fire, just like my touch, might dirty her dress. But it never occurred to her that I still might be up there, sleeping as the fire grabbed under the door and sunk in my skin. A firefighter pulled me out, but it was too late. Always too late! I still remember the feeling of the fire against my back, like death by 1,000 cuts! Only I survived. I think my mother cried when they pulled me out of the house. I had survived. She would have to continue living with this monstrosity. I stayed in the hospital for 2 months while my skin slowly rotted away under the bandages. But after the accident, I hungered for warm palm against mine, a body that would hold me and keep me from falling. But to my mother, I was even more hideous, deformed. I resembled a melted candle, my skin hanging off me like loose parchment. When I came home from the hospital, she hired a woman to change my bandages for her, just so that she wouldn't have to touch my charred, dripping skin. I just know that my deformed image haunted her while she was asleep. She had so many nightmares when I came back. My mother was the prettiest thing when asleep. She would lay out on the couch in her best pearls after work. And she lay so still, you could have sworn she wasn't breathing at all. But if you got close, real close, you could see her tiny, shallow breaths, like ripples in a lake. That was the only time I could touch her. The only time I could feel her warm fingers against my cheek. That was the only time I felt safe and loved. But one day, she woke up and saw that I, the hideous creature that I was, had dared to touch her. So she screamed and pushed me away. My own mother screamed because she couldn't bear the thought of my clumsy, blistered fingers against her swan-like throat. And all I could think of was stopping her, stopping that screaming, that horrible screaming. Because then maybe she would realize that I wasn't so hideous. So I grabbed her throat and pinned her to the couch, fast in place in her best pearls until she... Until she stopped. I could hold her for as long as I wanted. Feel her delicate fingers against my cheek. And not worry about her screaming. Eventually I took her away in a black bag all zipped up, snug like a cocoon. And as they were burying her to the soft, wet ground, you could still see the blue-black silhouette of hands against her neck. My hands! And then they took me away to here, a white house just like my old one, with clean walls and shiny floors. Everything is clean here, even my clothes, just like everyone else's. For once, I am unbelievably, perfectly, wonderfully normal. Twice a day, once in the morning and once before bed, a lady comes in all dressed in white with her needle and feeds me the sweetest medicine into my arm, like a mother feeding her baby. When she does it, she holds my arm steady, and for a moment, just a moment, I am safe and I'm warm. So stare all you want, because I have finally gotten what I've always wanted. To be held, to be touched, to be loved. Thank you.
So up next, we have our final performance in the humorous category, Miss Sara Beatriz Gonzalez. And she will be performing Accents Inc.
Accents Inc. by John C. Havens.
Hello, hello, yes, shall we settle? Please, people? Good, good. We're all seated and ready to learn, are we? Excellent! Oh, I see, well, we have a few rambunctious types, is that going to continue while Mrs. Peters is trying to run her class? Right then. Let's start at the very beginning. Starting at the end would mean I would have to talk backwards, which I can do, but I'm not sure you'd understand it. This is Accents Incorporated. Today I'll be giving you a varied overview on how to speak over half a dozen different accents. I promise you won't forget my methodology. First off, is there anyone here who's in the wrong room? This class is for learning different dialects or accents. If you wanted the class accents or making your hatchet smell minty, you're in the wrong room. So get out of here, vamos! Muy bien! Now that was Spanish, actual Spanish, not an accent. I'm afraid I won't be teaching you a whole new language today. That would take at least 2 sessions. You will have to do these exercises along with me, and you may have to stand in your seats. So don't be shy, all right? Let's start with the British dialect, like the one I'm faking. I mean speaking. Speaking. There are hundreds of different dialects, so let's get on with it, shall we? If you would be so kind to please stand in your seats. And do this motion with me. We are sipping our tea. Very British. You'll notice my pinky is extended high in the air whilst I drink. It's because the British are snorting. Say that with me in a British dialect. Snorting! Remember to keep your nose high in the air and talk nasal. Let's try again. Snorting! Really be pompous. Now, let's try our last phrase in the London/British dialect. You can sit down. I'm going to the theatre this evening. Now you. I'm going to the theatre this evening. Thrust your head back. More nasal. You, in the third row. More pompous. You don't look condescending enough. Right. Down to something a bit more complicated. Cockney. For Cockney, you first have to imagine that you have been hurled in the face repeatedly by a large blunt object. You should look like you're in pain at all times. Keeping your face in the same position, repeat this phrase with me in a Cockney accent. Right, governor. Now you. Right, governor. Oh, that was horrible. You have to feel the pain. Talk slower, as if you were highly medicated, and lower your voice. Now let's try it all together. Right, governor. Wonderful. Now let's move farther north in the British Isles, shall we? How about Scotland? Scottish is a highly amusing dialect that's great fun at parties. We'll start simple with the word grind. Try that with me now. Grind. Now, how would you say that normally? Great. Correct. The same way you would say grind. One of the hundreds of cryptic, twisted American English grammars. Now, in Scotland, they would say the same word in a similar fashion, but with much more emphasis on the R sound. So, instead of grind, instead of great, you would get grind. Say that with me now. Grind. For Scottish, you must thrust your chin forward as if you had an enormously thick beard that doesn't allow you to lower it. Alright? Now let's try another phrase. Angus, I love a wee bit of haggis. Good. Try it. Angus, we love a wee bit of haggis. Good. Now we're ready to try again. Angus, I love a wee bit of haggis. Angus, we love a wee bit of haggis. Wonderful. Now let's jump across the pond to Paris and work in a French accent, shall we? The French accent is similar to London in the sense that they think they're better than everybody. But instead of sticking your nose up in the air, they raise their eyebrows like this as to say, why are you in my country, you silly little American type of I want you to picture yourself holding a long loaf of French bread in your hand. You will gesture with this to help you get the feel of the language. Try like this. Oh oui, I would like to go to the Louvre. Louvre is a large French museum where many naked statues are exhibited. The French seem to have the twisted idea that the human body, the whole human body, is beautiful and should be exposed at all times. So let's move on. Now, Italian, a gorgeous language spoken not only by mobsters, but chefs too. For Italian, you must purse your lips as if you were about to kiss someone on the cheek. Put your thumb and fingers together, gesture it upwards. You will gesture with this hand, occasionally slapping it in the palm of the other as you speak. Try like this. Tony, your lasagna had a wonderful ricotta. Tony, your lasagna had a wonderful ricotta. Ricotta is a type of cheese eaten only by Italians, and only Italian people can make lasagna. If anybody else tries to make lasagna, a pound of bloody food poisoning is the result. I hate lasagnas. Now, our last phrase, Brooklyn. A Brooklyn dialect comes straight from the groin. It's all about sounding as if you were a swaggering suede with the brute strength of an ox. But you can't do long division. I want you to please stand in your seats. Our first phrase is a common one you should all be familiar with. Hey babe, how you doing?
Hey babe, how you doing?
You would get beaten to a pulp if you say it that way. Try from your groin, people. Try it like this. Do you see how I was dancing like John Travolta on Saturday Night Fever? There's a rhythm to Brooklynese. Won't go hit people, what are you, dead? Yeah.
How you doing?
Now let's try it again. Hey babe, how you doing? Hey babe, how you doing? Yes, that's wonderful. You don't sound as silky and shiny as your hair gel. Oh, I'm afraid our time is up. But there you have it, at least half a dozen different dialects that you have just mastered. Don't forget all of my tips and tricks I showed you as memory devices. Soon you'll be able to slip as seamlessly from one dialect to another as I can. Let me show you what I mean. I will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance using a smattering of dialects that I have just taught you. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Governor, and to the republic for which it stands, under one nation, under God, indivisible, with apart, or something like that, with a little bit of liberty and justice, and maybe some pizza pie, for all. Wonderful! Now let's give you guys a round of applause. So courageous and so bloody ridiculous looking. Ta-ta!
Up to the stage. They've worked really, really hard. And you know, us thespians like to get awards such as Oscars and Emmys and whatnot. So we have a little something for them. This is our forensic cheese. And if the judges could stand up so that they can